Good morning. Good morning. We got people already saying hi. Who we got saying hi? Corey and Josh and Corey added. Please provide AI generated meeting summaries. Look at that. Somebody's wanting to help us there. So we've got Aline on, Jeff is coming on, Jordan, Adam, Alan, Linda, Alicia, Tim, Crystal. Welcome on this. We are up here in Northwest Indiana. I'm not sure where everybody's from. Jonathan's there. And we're supposed to see 50 degrees again this week, which is warm for us up here in December. So we're happy about what's going on up here right now with the weather wise. Brandon's our speaker today, and he is on the road. So you get to see his bedroom in his hotel today, but I appreciate him taking some time, and we're going to learn about flipping land is what Brandon's been doing for the last several years. I've known Brandon for about 10 years, and excited to have him on today and invest in our community. So thank you everybody for being on. Before we get started with Brandon, I'm going to share my screen here.
Tom, you're looking like a lumberjack.
Am I? I'm looking like a lumberjack. I've never heard that before, but hey, I'll take it. I'll take that as a compliment. When I was in high school, I had to put on weight in order to keep up with playing power forward. I was the second shortest starter on my team, but I played power forward and had to put on weight.
I'm just waiting around for a few more.
All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you all for being on today. Appreciate everybody's attention this morning. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in real estate, but these calls have kind of turned into a little bit more from month to month about just investment strategy. And I just kind of want to let everybody know that I am a little bit, I really call myself an investor. I'm not just a real estate investor. Most of what I do is in real estate. We've got 9 different businesses that we run. We've got 30 something employees. We have a brokerage, a property management company, construction management company, a hard money lending fund, an education company, buy, fix and sell company. And we do all these different companies in real estate, but I still am always looking for investment in real estate, but also in other realms as well. So you guys will kind of see the next couple of months coming up. We have a little bit of outside the box. We've had gold already and precious metals, but you guys will see some more. We've got our next 3 calls already lined up. Next call is going to be with my good friend Larry Goins. He's been in the industry for many years. And he's kind of almost out of real estate, so to speak. He still, runs some stuff, still does, some properties, but he's kind of gotten out a little bit and kind of just slowed down a little bit in his older years. But he's been around for a long time, and I'm super excited to have him on next call. So our last call was with Jim Ingersoll. It was a great call. Jim is always a delight to be with. If you guys haven't been able to watch that call, you guys can go to our website and watch that call. And today we've got Brandon Rooks on, otherwise known as Rockstar. Welcome, Brandon.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tom.
Brandon's been on these shows, so he kind of knows how these go. But appreciate him taking some time with us today. I'm excited about today's call. So since last month, it has been a very busy month. I will tell you for sure. Me and my wife celebrated 26 years of marriage last week. Yes, I know she's put up with me for 26 years. I can't believe it either, folks. But we went to Chicago and saw Home Alone with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. And the Symphony Orchestra played all the music, and I didn't realize how much music there actually was on that but it was pretty cool. It really was. And you don't really know what to expect. My wife was probably a little bit more excited about this than I am, if I want to be transparent. But at the very beginning, you know how like when the fox thing comes up and the tiger comes out and it's like dun 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 dun, like you don't really understand what you're getting until you hear them play that part of it, and then you're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. But we had a good time. Didn't do anything super fancy. We've gone to Hawaii, we've gone to different places, but partly was because we went to Greece for 2.5 weeks, and that was kind of a little bit of our anniversary trip there a couple months ago. So celebrate her. We had our Christmas party at our office, and we had a dress up contest, and I had to win the dress up contest there. But there's a couple people from our company. I do yearly awards, and that's the employee of the year and the team or the lead, the leader of the year, Adam, who actually runs our Conduit Capital and my marketing. He's actually on this call here today. Won our leader of the year award. But we had a good time, played games, and had a good time. And then I got to go to Guatemala about a week and a half ago. Got to see some really crazy things up here in Atamita, and another mountain called Habit Tenango, and they have these hands that kind of stick out from the the mountains, and you can get up on them if you want to, and take pictures and stuff. It's one of the most Instagrammed places in the world. I didn't know that. And then also got to see my friend Dan Wilder, who's been a missionary there for 16 years, and our businesses and me have helped him a lot over the last 2 or 3 years, helped him build this building. So that if that top middle is what his building looked like 2.5 years, where you see the pulpit in the bottom left there standing today. So that it was really exciting to be there. There's some more pictures of me at that Altamira place. There's the hands and me on some of the hands there. And then this is back to their building as well. This is kind of some of the things that happened this year with their building. This was kind of their construction. And then we got to see them actually in their building last Sunday. This was the very first service, and I kind of went down there for their opening service. So it was interesting for me, and it was kind of like a blessing and almost like a Christmas present to me to kind of be able to be there and kind of see what you've supported with that. And to me, like, I believe in giving, but I really do believe in kind of making sure that what you're giving to is good and sound, and something that, is something that you believe in. This is actually where they had their Sunday afternoon. Everybody got together and ate lunch there on the property. But this is where they were having church for 3 years, folks, under this tarp. So this was definitely a blessing to be able to get them indoors and be able to get them to meet. Upcoming, want to remind everybody about some things that are upcoming. I will be speaking at Dealmaker. Hopefully you guys can make it. If you guys were on last time, Jim Ingersoll, the guy was on the last call. He puts this on every year. Been doing it for about 12 years, and he will do an amazing event. I promise you, there'll probably be 500-600 people there, and it'll be real estate investors. I mean, that's the best way for me to talk. This isn't family office. This isn't like a bunch of super rich people looking for deals necessarily, although there are those people there. This is like people that are actually doing deals. And if you want to get together with a bunch of other deal makers and make good friends, I think this is probably, if not the best conference of the year, one of the best, honestly, national conferences of the entire year. So I'd encourage everybody to make that happen. Also, it won't be as big of an event here, probably 200 people, I think they say they have for this, but Investor Addicts will be doing their cruise February 11th and 18th through 18th. I'll be on that cruise. It'll be fun. And then also don't forget about September. I want to make sure we start promoting this a little bit heavier. We've been skipping over this, but September 5 through 7, I had 3 new sponsors line up yesterday and actually pay for that. So I think we've got 6 paid sponsors now. And I am looking for a couple more sponsors if you guys are interested in sponsoring this event. But you guys can get your tickets at goodsuccess.com and make that happen. These are some pictures from last year's event. And we really had a good time, and not just a good time, but a lot of education, a lot of money was probably transferred from people's hands into getting deals done, and also just friendships that were kind of formed and maybe bonded together a little bit closer and tighter as well. So these are the pricing. So you got pricing for 1 or 2, but you guys can go to the website and find out more information about that. And don't forget about the videos and the Facebook group too. If you're on this call, not on the Facebook group, please get on that. We're really trying to make that a lot more active, and invite your friends to that Facebook group as well, if you guys can help us out a lot for that. So as you guys can see, I've been trying to be out there this year being a conduit. I hope you guys will be that as well, especially during the holiday season. Remember, there's people out there. You might be going through a tough time. You might be not understanding what's foot to put in front of the foot next, or you might be in a cloudy spot in your life, but there's always somebody out there that can still use your help, and there's always somebody that you can help. So live your life in the audience of one, but live your life trying to, work to have, to give, and help those in need. And always want to be a constant reminder to be a conduit and not a bucket. Next month, I already said this a little bit briefly, but Larry Goins, like I said, super good friend of mine, been friends for about 15 years. And Wendy's tweet, which many of you guys know, Wendy used to work for Larry. And when I first met Larry, Wendy was working for him. So really good guy. Wendy, I know, has learned a lot from him, and Larry probably learned a lot from Wendy as well. But I think it'll just be a really cool call. And this will probably really be more about a what's going on in a real estate call. So that'll be January 9th. And we're not bothering anybody during the holidays here. This is the last thing we've got going on this year. At Good Success. But hopefully you guys can jump on that call. And if you guys are local, our next, I don't know if we have it on here or not, but our next group, our next meetup group in Northwest Indiana, if you guys are local, or honestly, it's funny, every single month we've got people from out of state. We got a guy from Canada who shows up every so often. We got a couple guys from Arizona, Pennsylvania that have been to the meetup group. But our January meetup group is going to be on the 18th. So the 18th at 5:30. If you guys are local, you guys want to be there for that, I appreciate you guys being there. So Brandon Rooks going to teach us about flipping land. And he's not just flipping land. I'm sure you guys have been on some little different podcasts and things where people have taught you how to flip land, but he's doing this on a much larger scale. So I am going to try to get him to slow down a little bit and kind of get into the weeds a little bit and help us learn how they do what they do, because there's a lot that goes into it. A lot of it's with permitting and cities and trying to get all that stuff done. But I'm excited to learn today, and so I will turn the floor over and the screen over to Brandon. Thank you for being on and investing in our community today. I taught Brandon something this morning. I taught him how to share his screen. So
hopefully it works. Yeah, again.
He is ready to go. So Brandon was one of our speakers the last 2 years. I think he's going to be there this year at the free for all. And I appreciate Brandon's support over the years, and want to have him on today.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for everybody that's on, and anybody that might be watching this later, which I know Tom gets a lot of views on other recordings. So, all right, real quick, let me go to hit my share screen. And
look, it works.
See if I can remember what you taught me. Play from
Look
start.
at that, man. The student just.
Thank God it was only two
first
steps.
time, Brandon.
All right. I'm not going to go into my background. You can go onto my website at rockstarcapitalfund.com. Read bios, read testimonials, read a little bit about us. Been around the block, 23 years in the investment real estate arena. So if I talked about everything I did, it would actually be an all-day seminar, or maybe two. But all right. So a little bit about what.
Yeah, the first time me and Brandon met, he was selling turnkeys. So
I was, yeah. Yeah, turnkey new construction and renovation properties across the country, which, by the way, is the only goal that I've ever failed at. I was doing really good in 2015, kept adjusting my goals to every quarter, and was on track to sell 1,000 doors myself in 2015, but I only hit 954. So now the one goal that I missed, and I can't go back and fix it, and it haunts me till today. So yeah,
you're such a show off.
Only sold 954 properties. Okay, so this is me. Rockstar Capital Group is basically it's a culmination of multiple entities. I've been a syndicator of multiple 506B and 506C funds. I recently merged all of the Reg D funds into a Reg A fund. And just for purposes of that, we're always growing and needed to streamline and simplify and be able to grow with what has been the most exciting thing that I've been a part of in real estate for 23 years. And that's dirt. I mean, we're in and out at dirt. And for so many years, there's these connotations or these, just things that people have either a horror story or they just don't understand. But we found dirt to be extremely profitable. And what I mean by that is when you take raw ground and you get it fully permitted, shovel ready, so that the builder can put equipment on the ground and start construction, that's called a paper lot. And it is the most highly profitable part of any transaction in real estate. I'm giving a little backstory here to tell why I got into it. We actually had a piece of ground that it was a legacy lot. It was going to be 99 single family attached townhomes, like fourplexes and sixplexes. And we'd picked this up and we were sitting on it. And not long after we had purchased it, we had Tim Samuels from Ryan Homes come knocking at our door and said that they were just about to make the offer and do the purchase. And we're like, well, so sad, too bad. You snooze, you lose. But he kept haunting us and kept coming back every couple months when he realized we hadn't done anything yet. We had a lot of things in the pipeline. We had intended to build that project out. And he kept coming back. And Lindsay, which is my general partner, he's from New Zealand. He runs the BRD land and investment side of things. He's really kind of the visionary and the mentor and general partner that just started exploding this. But he finally said, okay, Tim, fine. We'll go have some, I'm gonna have steak. I'm gonna have drinks on you. I'll let you make an offer just so that you can appease Ryan Holmes. So anyway, within 24 hours, Tim Samuels came back with an offer, and Lindsay's eyes just about popped out of his head. And long story short, because I don't want to get too into it, he looked at that offer and did some quick assessing and was basically, we were going to profit $30,000 a lot / a door if we just sold the dirt. And if we built the entire project out all the way to completion and have all the expenses that go along with it, carrying costs and commissions and leasing it up and, just anything that can happen, plus all the delays that happen, we were only going to make about $20,000 a door. So we were going to make $10,000 more per lot and never actually touch a shovel or a hammer. And that was kind of an eye-opener. The reason that's possible is most of us, in this industry, fix and flippers, renovators, maybe even like small local custom builders, we cannot build to the scale that these national builders can. By the way, Ryan Homes is number 3 builder in the country. And at the time, Ryan Homes is building for around $69 a foot. We were close to $100 a foot.
Yeah.
So that was the connection, was they will purchase ground all day long if it's fully permitted and shovel ready, and they'll overpay for it because they've got economy of scale with the rest of their building throughout the country. They can spend more on the land. Now, getting the land to that stage is not an easy task. And I couldn't tell you that any of you would be able to just jump right in and go buy a piece of ground and expect to get that fully entitled and permitted without some major brain damage, a lot of frustration dealing with city municipalities and zoning and environmental studies and fit studies and traffic studies and, will it carry water? Can you handle sewer? Can you get power out there? There is a whole lot of things that go into entitling raw ground. And that was really, the parts that we've been learning over the last 5 years. But if you can take raw ground and get it fully permitted, I'll just tell you from where we stand on the BRD land and investment side, our profit margins are 40 to 60% on average. I'll give just a little bit more backstory, then we'll get into some more of that. Let me give you an example. Let's say that our team goes out and makes an offer on a piece of ground for $4 million. Then it's going to cost maybe about $500,000 to get it all the way through the process. And it's going to take 9 months to a year, sometimes 16, 18 months, sometimes longer. It depends on the city municipalities, really. But it's a process, and it's a lot of follow-up. But that profit margin comes from $4 million for the ground, 500,000 borrowed, which, by the way, we act as a lender to BRD Land and Investment and to Buller River and Estero Developments, which does our new construction workforce housing, build for rent and owner occupied properties in the upper 200s to low to mid 300 price point. But anyway, $4 million, 500,000 borrowed. They pay us an interest rate on that for the lending for over the course of the year. Crazy interest rate, 30% annualized return, but they're only paying it on the $500,000. They're putting the ground under contract for $4 million. We take it through all of the entitlement and permitting process, and by the end, at the end of the 12 months, if we've got everything done on time, we're flipping it, like Tom mentioned, and why he titled it this way. We flip it to a national builder. That same piece of ground will be all in at 4.65. It'll sell for $10 to $11 million all day long. And that was the big eye opener. And all of a sudden, it's like, we don't have to swing a hammer, build anything, have tenants, toilets, trash, which, don't get me wrong, it's great to own real estate. It's great to be a real estate investor. At one point, I was owner in 500 doors, still have a couple rentals myself. But I basically just got to the point, like, I love dirt, and there's not much you can do to screw it up. Tornadoes can come through and wipe it out, but you know what? You're going to build again. It can flood, but it'll dry off. Short of someone dropping a nuclear bomb in there and putting a great big old crater, there's pretty much not much you can do to screw up dirt. So it became something that we really became interested in. And now, for our scale of where we're at, we go out and hire some of the top land asset managers in the markets that we're in. And these guys have been delivering permitted lots to builders for many years. And we've gone and amassed them and hired them and brought them on to our team, a lot of times taking away from the builders. These guys typically make $250,000, $300,000 a year, but they have all the connections. It's all about relationships. And I get off the disclaimer here. I have the thing up, but I'm not using it. Okay, and it's all about relationships. It is knowing how to get things through coding, how to get things through zoning, how to show up at the city town meetings and show that this is a viable, feasible piece of ground, that's going to be developed and built. And by the way, our focus is in pretty much single family housing, attached or detached. So we're staying with homes that fit the workforce housing price point on average. Any ground that we're getting fully permitted to this paper lot stage is going to be sold off to one of the top national builders in the country. But what they're going to build on their end is something in that $250,000 to $500,000 price point, sometimes a little bit more. And we are currently selling to 13 of the top 25 national builders in the U.S. And our markets currently are in the Southeast, primarily hot area, Carolinas, Florida, Georgia, looking at some stuff in Alabama. But anywhere that our national builders are, they're chomping at the bit for us to expand and open operations, which is not hard to do, but you've got to find somebody that has experience in taking ground from raw ground to fully permitted. And I'm telling you now, if you can research it, you can Google it, you can YouTube it, you can read books on it, but it's not necessarily easy. Now, at the same time, because we have that figured out, if any of you out there listening have good leads on land, we're not opposed to working with someone to kind of partner up with them. And if you can find stuff that's highly desirable and have got some inside scoop, then guess what? You don't have to figure out how to do it yourself. All you can do is reach out to us, and we'll go in and take a look and see if that's something that can be done. And believe me, you're still going to make a lot of money and still have less brain damage. So
yeah, I was gonna ask you that a little bit, Brandon, as we kind of get through this call. Can you just go over the list of things that you guys do? I'm actually going through this on one little property right now, Brandon. We bought a house, we had to tear it down, and now we're trying to rebuild. but I need a variance. All I need is a variance. Okay. I need to be able to, like, the way that the subdivision is written today is not how it was written when my typical house was built, when my house was built. And I'm
Right.
trying to be able to rebuild the same footprint of a house that was there before. You know, I literally need it moved 5 feet, and it's taken me like 18 months. And I've had to go to 4 different meetings just to get them to approve me to rebuild a house similar to what was already there. You know, so I feel your pain, and I mean, that's just one little tiny, you know, nuance of what you're talking about. So let's get into the operations of this, and then I'd like to get into the acquisitions of this, which is good that you ask people about. You know, obviously maybe you're getting this from word of mouth and people sending you deals, but I'd like to get into the how you are acquiring them. And I think you've already told us how you're selling them, because you're selling them to the national builders, and that's through relationships.
Yeah.
But can you get a little bit into at least the steps? You don't have to explain how to do each step, but
Yeah.
city zoning, I know you said sewer, power. Can you go through that list again?
Yeah, I'd have to go find a certain thing to do it, because, you know, now as we operate the way we do, our land asset managers and BRD Land and Investment really has all the ins and outs of all the details of the actual steps. And I've got a good high level overview, but I act as the capital raising partner and do the lending. But first thing you have to do is when you go after a piece of ground, you want to do your due diligence. And now in your case, you're looking at a lot, but if you're looking at something to build out for a development, you've got to, you got to go to the county. You know, you got to start doing your research on it. Are there any, the basic stuff? Are there liens? You know, you can look and see if you're going to need easements. That can be a nightmare sometimes when you're doing larger parcels of ground. Find out if it's multiple parcels of ground. And, you know, we have one that we call the little old lady from Pasadena, that we had a 58-acre parcel combination thing, and we had to get about 12 easements and bring in city water, which we were bringing city water into all these pieces of ground. And this one little old lady from Pasadena just didn't want it. Didn't want city water, didn't want it coming anywhere near her property. And long story short, sometimes you got to grease the palm a little bit and pay a little bit more to make things happen. So money fixes everything, right? But and maybe off the record, Tom, you might need to take some certain people to dinner, and maybe yeah, we better talk about that one off the record. But you've got to get somebody on your side. You've got to go to the county, go to the city, you know, talk with your local mayor, possibly. You know, most places want the improvement. Where you might run into headaches is like someone's trying to bring in, you know, a 5-story, 6-story multifamily apartment complex near a residential neighborhood. You know, immediately residential neighbors start raising their red flags and bitching and moaning. So those are things to think about and consider when you're going after a piece of ground. Are you going to get met with a lot of flack? You know, there's always going to be somebody that's upset with it. But you know,
Well, they want improvement, but they don't want the riffraff.
Yeah, and you know that's another part of the battle, and that's why it's good to find that experienced operator that knows how to get through a lot of those channels. Which, you know, maybe what I'll do in your case, Tom, is I'll get with Tim and the team, and you know, we'll see if we have some connections out there in your area and find out who you can talk to and what to do. But
oh, we're almost there.
Oh, good.
Like literally, we've been told the next meeting it's going to get approved 2 times, and this will be the third. I have a feeling it'll get approved this time. There's really no opposition. It's just stupid red tape.
It is red tape, and you know, some states are more friendly than others, and there's states that we do avoid because we know how long it takes to get anything done or approved. Sometimes certain counties, sometimes certain cities. So these are things to think about. Is it a great business, and can you dip your toe in the water? You know, go out and reach out to your network, find that piece of ground, but make sure that ground is in the path of growth, that it's, you know, speculation is part of part of the problem. A lot of people, when they think of buying ground and profiting on ground, which I always like to say, I've finally figured out how to cash flow on dirt. They hear the horror stories like, oh, it's going to take 10 or 20 or 30 years before we have growth to that area. But I think we've all seen scenarios where around our place where we live, we're like, man, just 10 years ago, that was farmland,
Right.
and there was cows and corn. And all of a sudden, boom, you've seen these little suburban outer area cities just explode. There's not a lot more you can do inside the city, and growing single family residence usually means spreading out. But one thing that you can do is, if this is something you're interested in, or if you get a lead on it and it's something you want to take to a local, custom builder or regional builder or national builder, get their eyes on it as well. Make sure you've got it some sort of locked up so that, you're not sharing the milk and they take or sharing the cow and they take the milk and the cow, So have a little bit of an in, but preview it with a builder. One of the things that we do, one of the most important steps that we do, our land asset managers are just experienced in going out and finding that off market ground. And what they'll do is they'll approach the seller and go, look, today your ground is worth X. And you can find that on any MLS, a broker opinion. You can figure out what the price per acre is. You can figure that part out. And they just tell them, look, your ground is worth X. However, we know this is in the path of growth. We know that our national builders would be interested in it. And if you're interested in selling, if we can get this to a fully paper lot, permitted, shovel ready piece of ground, it's going to be worth X. And what we'll do is try to negotiate something in the middle where we put the piece of ground under contract. But this is important. This is only after previewing that ground to our national builders. So we'll go do our due diligence. We'll look, through the county records. We'll look to see if there's any red flags. We'll see if we're going to have any issues with getting it zoned the way we need to get it zoned. Are there going to be any code issues? Are there wetlands? Did you walk the ground? Is the topography conducive of putting up a development? There's some things that we do up front, but we'll pre-engineer and figure out about how many single family lots can be delivered to a builder. And we also know what our builders want. We know if they want 50-foot lots, 40-foot lots, with deep lots. We know the types of things that they want. We know many of our builders, they want no less than 100 lots to be able to be built on. We've got a handful of regionals that'll take some 50 lot, 60 lot, 70 lot packages, but know what your end buyer wants. And we'll preview that to the end buyers. And once we have verbals, because we've done business with them, we close tens of millions of dollars, with these national builders, then we'll go to the landowner and go, look, all right, we want to put it under contract. We'll put it under contract for 12 months and say, we're going to cover all the cost of entitlements, and the soft costs. And we're going to do the whole job, get it fully permitted and approved. And at the end of the 12 months, we'll pay you X. That's how we get the interest, because, and they'll kind of baffle them with the bullshit, so to speak, because it's not easy. It's a lot of steps. And let this landowner know that if you try to do it yourself, we wish you all the best of luck. You'll probably come back to us if you start the process in 2 to 3 years and realize you should have just started with us from the beginning. It's that much of a headache, which I have another great story, and I'll talk about that one in a few.
So how far are you getting the dirt? Are you actually building roads and I'm assuming you're separating lots? No?
No.
Okay.
It is raw ground from the time we start to the time we finish.
And so are the lots separated? Yeah.
So when we go to sell to the national builders, we'll have it pre-engineered and we'll have a plat map designed. So yeah, we've figured out the lots and where the retention pond goes, common area, any green space, things like that.
So you're not actually developing at all?
No, not at all. But we pre-engineer, and that's what makes us different. What we're doing actually is something that nobody's ever done to scale. But we're we set goals and we achieve goals, and we're not afraid to try things that others may not have done. But yeah, exactly. It's raw ground from the time we get involved to the time we sell. The only thing we may do is we got to go out and do like soil samples, right? Or drill to see if we're going to hit rock in certain areas, because that can really throw off a project. If you start hitting rock everywhere, it's going to cost a lot more to deal with that rock, and you've got to adjust your offering price from there. But anyway, let's go back to, we put it under contract. In our contract, we give ourselves 12 months to go through the entire process. Within the first probably 2 to 4 to maybe 6 weeks, we're going to do the things like environmental studies and fit studies, which we have a good idea. But there's things that we can do that will let us know we will take it to full permitting. It's just a matter of process, and that's what we call the risk hurdles. Once we're through the risk hurdles, then BRD Land and Investment comes to Rockstar Capital Group, and they're like, okay, we've got X amount in it. We need reimbursed for that. So they go do more projects. And we're going to need X amount to take this all the way through to the end. And we lend on that amount of money. And we know it'll be permitted. It's through the risk hurdles. So that way we're never lending on anything, and we're never purchasing anything that could be a failure or could take 4 years or 5 years or 6 years. We want to make sure that every piece of ground that we're dealing in can be turned in less than 2 years. That's kind of like the cutoff. Some might be worth taking 18 months. But anyway, we have clauses that protect us. If we hit things within that first 2 to 4 to 6 weeks and it tells us, hey, this is not going to be permitted or we're going to have all these issues, we can back out of the contract, and BRD Land and Investment is, it might be out $20,000, $30,000, but in the scheme of the $850 million of retail ground that we have in our pipeline right now, it's nominal. It's just absolutely, and we've only ever had to back out of one project so far, and which is good.
That's awesome.
And by the way, it is $850 million in retail ground. I think our pipeline is right about 40,000 lots right now. And we have a goal of, by the end of 2024, having a 100,000 lot pipeline, selling 40,000 lots a year, which is about $1 billion in retail sales. And the profits at 40% minimum are $400 million on that. And, but again, we've got a lot of stuff that we've profited 50%, 67%. We've had some deals that a lot of the work was already done. We went in and just did all the cleanup and touch up and got it sold. And we made 78% profit. So crazy profits in the raw ground space. So and you never put a piece of equipment on the ground and do a damn thing.
So you talked a little bit about where you're buying, right? So it's mostly what, Southeast, Midwest, a little bit, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida.
Yeah.
Alabama seems to be a hot market right now.
Yeah, the Southeast Sun Belt. They're all hot markets. They all have room for single family attached or detached residential homes. And when you're working with the national builders, they can meet those price points. Here's some other key things to think about, because there's so much that is involved, right? Everybody's like, well, I don't want to get land because, the builders, they're not going to build anything because the rates are at 8% or 7%. Well, let me give you a little inside track. D.R. Horton built 83,000 homes last year. And there was a period, if you're all real estate investors watching this, this. There was a period where the interest rates literally doubled inside of damn near 9 months. And COVID had a lot of backlash. A lot of building around the country got majorly slowed. D.R. Horton could typically start a lot and have a finished home in 90 days. Well, even they were hitting 10 to 12 months average. Mm-hmm. You come into a D.R. Horton office, you pick your floor plan, you go get pre-qualified with the mortgage lender. And what does everybody do in America? We go to the maximum loan to value and debt to income ratio that we can. Peak out, I could afford $380,000 for this house at today's rates that were 3.5%. Well, over the course of all the things that happened with COVID and all the timelines being delayed, people started coming to the closing table with D.R. Horton, and all of a sudden the rates were doubled and they no longer qualified for the lending. So you watch the mainstream media, all the builders are retracting and they've got inventory, they got to dump and yada, yada. Everybody freaks out over the little things. When you're dealing with the biggest builders in the country, there's always workarounds for everything. So long and short, they started buying everybody's rate down so they could close the house. They own they own a mortgage company. They have every loan product there is. They just bought the rates down to 4.95, made sure people still qualified. And that's something that you're going to see a lot of, and you might see it start popping up in different media outlets and hearing around town. But we do it with our new construction projects in the Southeast. We buy the rate down so that people can afford these homes, and you just got to work it into your profit margins. You can actually charge a little more, buy the rate down to help offset the rate buy down or your cost, and still deliver homes. So there's always things that you can do. But yeah, I mean, D.R. Horton built 83,000 homes last year. They're always looking 2 to 3 years out. Everybody, I get a lot of calls. I have a lot of great Rockstar investors, and I try to keep regular quarterly communications. But there's people that don't open the emails, or they hear the mainstream media and then they call me and they're like, "Oh man, everything's going to hell in a handbasket. The rates are high, builders aren't building." I'm like, and when you're dealing with the biggest builders in the country, they're not going to slow that machine down. They're just going to alter, pivot, or shift. So what's happened in the dirt? We've had some developments that we started with maybe a 50-foot lot front, but because the rates did go up, a lot of these big builders are shifting and pivoting to starter homes, smaller footprints. So they're coming back, "Hey, can we get this rezoned or replatted or re-engineered for 44-foot lot fronts?" So they just shift and pivot so they can put more doors on that piece of ground, which will compensate and offset the fact that they're not profiting highly on the larger homes, which they do. It's kind of like you make a little bit of money on a lot versus trying to make as much as you can on a few. And the builders do that and have done that for years. When the market's good, when the rates are down, when the money's flowing, they're going to build bigger homes and they're going to have more profit in those bigger homes. In times like we're dealing with today, they're shifting to the starter homes. They're smaller footprint, but maybe some more amenities with the home, making it more of a smart home, or making sure that it's got, high-speed fiber optic in the neighborhood. There's things that they'll do to enhance so that it could be sold. So kind of remember
how are you guys finding all these lots? You said you had 40,000 lots under contract right now that you're working with in the pipeline?
Correct.
So how are you finding all of these lots?
We went after land asset managers. And these are guys that have been working. We took some of them from the builders, actually. But they've been working with national builders for 10 plus years. Everybody that we go after has experience in the market. And you remember me saying a little earlier about Tim Samuels from Ryan Homes? Well, Tim Samuels is now a general partner in BRD Land and Investment. Ryan Homes, I can talk about it now because it's way past it, but got to the point, he helped build them to who they are. He's known as the godfather of land in the Carolinas. He's a Rolodex of everybody all along the Southeast of land asset managers, right? Because he had people that would go out and find the dirt and do exactly what they do to get it ready. And he's one of those dynamic individuals with Rolodex that mattered. So these guys make $250,000, $300,000 a year. And what we did is, by the way, Ryan Holmes fired or let Tim go after, X amount of years. They're like, Tim was making a lot of bank, and they had like a nephew, one of the executive the owners came in, was going to replace Tim and do what Tim did, for a fifth of the cost. It was funny because immediately after they did that and had this non-compete and all this stuff that he couldn't do anything at all for a year, Ryan Holmes lost 1,600 lots that they had LOIs or under contract with the sellers, because the sellers are like, "We don't know who you are. We know who Tim is. That's who we worked with." They came trying to claw him back, but we had already had him join the BRD Land and Investment team. He's like, let's say we do this, guys. Let's go out and find raw ground. and we'll deliver to all the national builders. So Tim is that Rolodex. He's gone after land asset managers that have the experience, have the relationships, have the knowledge. A lot of these guys are engineers or appraisers or architectural background, or they're focused on that space. And we basically said, look, you brought 1,000 lots to DR and Meritage and Mattamy last year. You bring 1,000 lots to us, we'll give you $1,000 for every permitted lot you deliver. So all of a sudden we just 3x or 4x their income, and we hand them their own business. So we go after the people that have been doing it and have the experience and can prove that they can deliver this raw ground. And it's a matter of network. They know how to approach those landowners. They know how to find those landowners, And here's another thing, and this kind of ties into it. I told you there was a little story about somebody trying to do it on their own, and then they came to us. So there was this group that had a piece of ground in Charlotte, and I believe it was 169 acres, and it was going to be 500 lots. And they had been working on trying to get this piece of ground fully permitted, shovel ready, to the paper lot stage for 5 years. And we're just getting frustrated, kind of like you, been 18 months in and still having issues. And they had heard about us, and they reached out to Tim. And Tim's like, yeah. He goes, we'd love to take this off your hands and take care of it. So they came to us in third quarter of 2020. They said, look, you buy the ground right now. You close on this before Christmas for $8 million, and we will give you first right of refusal on all the land that we own in and around the greater Charlotte market. Well, it just so happened they're a 10-generation family farming group. And they owned over 30-some thousand, what could be 30,000 lots. 30,000 acres. Was it 30,000 acres? 30,000 acres all around that market. And by the way, a lot of our land deals now are ground from those guys, but we bought it, put it under contract, knew all the right connections. We actually delayed it and took it a year and a day, because at a year and a day, you pay a hell of a lot less taxes on a sale than if you sell it in less than a year. Remember that, people. Remember that little clue. But that's a case in point of someone getting frustrated of trying to figure out how to do it on their own, and then coming to someone that's got the experience. And that landed us first right of refusal on a lot of stuff. Farmers are moving further out. When the city starts to encroach on farmers, it becomes a lot more expensive for them to run their operations. So they're typically happy to sell. They just may not have the knowledge of, they might just sell it for raw ground, raw land, raw acre price. But one thing you can do is getting them excited is, hey, we believe this is in the path of growth. We want to take this to a national builder. Let us partner with you, and we'll get you a little bit more for your dirt, and we'll take care of everything. You got to have the pockets to be able to do that, right? So
you're not really looking for land. You're not out there necessarily trying to find land. You're trying to find people to help you find land, and you're focusing on the relationships more than you are actually looking at the land.
That's what we've done. So we don't have to be experts in how to get that land fully permitted and entitled. We go and get the experts and make them work, or have them. I can't say make them. Have them work for us, right? Yeah. You've got people like that in your market. So if you're interested, as a group, people that are listening, in doing something like this, then I would encourage you to get involved with maybe some local Rotary clubs, talk with some of your builders in your area, start figuring out who are the guys in that area that go out and find the dirt, and have they do what we do. They're engineers, or they're in the real estate development space or arena, and it's well worth the time. But again, it's not easy. It's taken us several years to build this up. And what's really interesting about where we're at, and Tom, I think you know this, we recently did a $20 million capital raise, and was pretty interesting. That was one of my big goals there that happened. Raised $20 million in essentially about 9 days. And what that did is that allowed us to do expansion into other markets. It also, we had the top division president for Meritage Home Builders, which is the #5 builder in the country. This guy's, they've been buying ground from us. He's been actually digging in, and he's really been fascinated with what it is we do and how we've been growing our operation. And
What you doing creepy? Hey, nothing.
And he came back. He came back and he says, guys, he goes, I don't know if you know this, but he's like top division president. He goes, you guys are sitting on a gold mine. He's like, you could do this in any market that all these national builders are. We know. He's like, we just can't raise capital fast enough. But the long and the short is this division president, Mo Johnson, saw what we were doing, walked away from his multi-million-dollar salary and stock options and, a very secure future, and is now our new acting CEO at BRD Land and Investment. Worked for one of the top 5 builder in the country, and was over the Southeast. So what we're doing is exciting, and it's kind of, I still sometimes kind of pinch myself. I sleep really good at night, raising capital and putting it to work in dirt. And I know that dirt is valuable, and it's something, if you can figure out how to get into it in your market, it can be extremely profitable. It's a great offset, right?
That's awesome.
Try your first project. But now Mo Johnson works for us, and we're taking this to $1 billion a year.
A couple questions that are in the chat. Jonathan asks, is this the one run by Robert Martinez? I don't think it is, but
no. Yeah, I know. Robert Martinez is out of Texas, and it's just Rockstar Capital. And unfortunate, right? Because when I go on, I've had the name Rockstar for 24 years. I've had Rockstar Investments for over 11 years. And when researching in the states that I'm in for what I could have for the names of my entities, I didn't see any other Rockstar Capital out there. But Robert Martinez is Rockstar Capital. He is in multifamily and property management, like, big townhomes and apartments and things like that. And well, I'll just leave it as it is. Right now, I don't think things are going real well for their group. But maybe
Jonathan says Jonathan says he's got 400 to 600 acres in Florida he would like to speak to you about.
Excellent. Which Jonathan? I'm not seeing him on the thing here.
Jonathan Asbell.
Oh, hey, Jonathan. I'm going to have my information at the end of this slide. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me to put your number in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at it. I pulled up a share screen, but yet I'm just stuck on one page that I just talked. So yay me. Let me go through here real quick. Oh, by the way, which we'll talk later. I mean, I work with accredited, non-accredited investors. 10,000 minimum to work with us if you're interested in figuring out a cash flow on land. All right. So controlling the dirt, that is the key. Control it. Make sure that you have an out. If you run into an issue, what's different about traditionally how the model works is typically when somebody wants to do a deal like this, they have to go to the bank and actually buy the ground and put 35% down. We all know how much of a nightmare the banks are. And then they put 35% down, and they won't let you do anything until you're on title. You can't start the entire process. So that's where a lot of people got stuck buying something and holding it for a long time, and that stuck with land on their balance sheets. It actually is why we're so successful now. The 2008 real estate collapse changed the model for a lot of national builders. They no longer want to have ground on their balance sheets. So that's what's made us even more intriguing to work with these different developers. And by the way, I mentioned D.R. Horton a lot. There's something in a lot of these big companies called land committees. And land committees suck, and they ruin deals, delay deals, and cause problems with deals. D.R. Horton realized that, and years ago they took away land committees and they gave all their division presidents the parameters and allowed them to make all their own purchasing decision for ground. So that's why I'll mention D.R. Horton quite a bit. By the way, another tidbit of information: the top 10 builders in the country build over 35% of all single family rooftops in America. The number one builder being D.R. Horton sold 83,000 homes last year. The number 10 builder sold just over 10,000. That is the spread difference. It's huge. A matter of fact, from number 5 down, they're all in the, $11,000 or 11,000 unit range or lower. So, and Warren Buffett just bought hundreds of millions of dollars of shares in the top 3 builders, stocks and shares in the country. So it's kind of like the Oracle of Omaha and the Guru. If you see him investing in the top 3 builders in the country, do you think he's worried about what's going on for the next few years? No. So, let's see. Our team, my son works for us. Dr. Vanessa Peters is one of the GPs. Jeff Ducharme, Tom, you know him. I have him as one of our GPs. There's more connections. BRD Land and Investment. I'm sharing my screen now. BRD Land and Investment is our strategic partner. We were general partners, and then our attorney said, because we set up this lending model, he's like, it's not good if you lend to yourself. You guys should separate. You can still be partners strategically, just not general, because the powers that be like to just dig in when someone's lending to themselves. So we just try to avoid those guys. Here's Mo Johnson and part of our land team. Lindsay Jarvis is, I've known Lindsay and Tim and Kevin now for well over 10 years. I do business with people that I know and have a track record. I've been very fortunate. Today, I'm knocking on wood here. To this date, 23 years in investment real estate, none of my clients have ever lost a dime of their principal. And doesn't mean we didn't have issues and problems. And I helped people, get involved in different projects, and didn't mean I had to go to bat sometime and fight and claw with the borrower, because I was just a go-between. And there's been a handful of deals where, and it's unfortunately it was in the renovation space, but got involved with a renovator, did the research on him. He was on the West Coast in Seattle area, by the way. And I had just a few investors invest with him, and he went AWOL, disappeared. And he was a speaker. He traveled, had a real estate license, and apparently his partner back home was not doing the right things. And long story short, that guy just disappeared, and my investors were left holding the bag. So I wrote checks to my investors so that they wouldn't lose their principal. I was the only one I was never able to recover, repair, fix, or dive in and get reworked. I go to bat for my investors though. So again, fortunate so far to date. None of my clients have ever lost a dime in their principal. And I just, like I said, I sleep really well now in dirt, because here's kind of the worst case scenario. And think about this when you're dealing in dirt. What's the worst thing that can happen? Which is a question everybody should ask whenever they're investing in anything. Well, in our case, we don't go under contract with anything speculative. We know we'll sell it, and we don't go hard, full force on it or follow through the ground until we're through the risk hurdles, and we know it's just a matter of processing. So we know it'll sell. Worst case scenario is all the builders in America just stop building. And if that happens, we probably have bigger problems, right? But for us, as Rockstar Capital, I said, look, if our partners can't monetize or move product, we're just going to freeze things for right now. We hold the notes and the mortgages on tens of millions of dollars of ground.
Hey, Johnny.
And
nonstop, wall to wall. What's up?
Somebody's got their mic
Somebody
on
needs
mute,
to mute.
guys.
RCN is not accepting a means experience.
Oh,
For any of it?
Nope,
Zero?
nothing.
Can you figure out who that is, Tom?
Amelia, can
And
you mute
Yeah, waiting
Rick?
2.5 weeks to tell us
Rick
too.
B.
Rick,
really?
mute.
Thank you.
Shit, lost my train of thought. Where was that? Reminder, anybody? Worst case scenario. Maybe we have to sit. We stop doing distributions, but we're not going to lose the investment. And that's what's really good. Dirt is at the core of everything that needs to be built for real estate, whether it's commercial or residential or retail, or multifamily or apartments or condos or high rises. and they're not making any more of it. And all we're doing is making it more desirable for the
Yeah.
people that need it. And we meet with and see and talk with a lot of these division presidents from these national builders on a regular basis. And D.R. Horton has actually laid down the challenge for D.R. Horton to double production, which is just crazy. And let me explain why they can even say that. We have not been building enough homes in America. Tom, you had a great slide on that a couple of years ago. You know, we're supposed to build around 2 million new units every year just to keep up with population demand and growth. And we've never got back to that 2 million since the 2008 collapse. 2009, there was 558,000 homes built, and people are like, what? But it was the big boys. It was the nationals. They can't shut down their operations. They can't lose their subs. They can't lose their key people. You know, they might have some layoffs as things just get terrible, but you know, it's very strategic in their layoffs. They're going to keep churning and burning. It's kind of like the too big to fail. But the worst case scenario, if it came to a situation builders couldn't build, builders couldn't, you know, commit on ground or buy ground, then I would just say, look, we're going to just freeze things for right now. Everybody's investment is good. We own this ground. We have notes and mortgages on this ground. And I don't foresee this happening, by the way, but you know, every investment is a risk. So you put the information out there. But I would just say we got to just sit tight until it picks up again. And my strategic partners can offload or sell their projects. And the good thing is there's, like I said, we have $850 million of retail ground just on the BRD land and investment side. I know we have several thousand lots funded in the Buller River and Estero developments. And they've been the hardest hit with all these delays down in the Southwest or Southeast, excuse me. Which Tom, you know this, you've had enough of these dealings. It's nothing ever gets done as fast as it used to. So they've had delays, but we still are sitting on lots that we funded or financed, and for around $6,000-7,000 down in Southwest Florida, they're now worth 45,000. So we're sitting on probably all in told with the three entities that we lend to and what we have going, I'd say about $1 billion of retail ground currently. And I have raised and put to work a total of $70 million into that. So LTV is extremely low. It's amazing what you can do with.
Well, I appreciate you being on. I appreciate you being on today and investing in our community. Can you just wrap up real quick with just like a quick synopsis if somebody is interested in investing in the fund and how they can get a hold of you, if they have a piece of land that they want to pitch to you or talk to you about, or if they are interested in the fund as well. I don't have people on here that I wouldn't invest in with myself. We have some of our family money in with this fund. So again, this isn't something that I take lightly. But just wanted to give Brandon the opportunity. This isn't like a hard pitch or anything, but I just wanted to give him the opportunity to let people know about him if you guys are interested. And like someone already said on the call here, Jonathan, if you guys do have land or if you have something like that in especially one of those areas, Florida, the Southeast, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, North South Carolina, those are definitely areas that I know that they're already working in, probably maybe some more areas as well. But if you guys have properties in those areas, are there some more states, Brandon, that you guys are working in, Missouri or Arkansas or Indiana?
Well, we'll go anywhere.
Okay.
It's just a matter of raising enough capital to be able to expand. I can't raise it fast enough. Literally, if I could raise $20-25 million a month, maybe even 50 million a month, we could put it to work quickly. It's not that hard for us to now duplicate and scale, and that's why Mo Johnson has come on. Is we're going to duplicate and scale the operations. I'm now going to be reaching out. Everybody that's a Rockstar investor gets to enjoy some really great performance, which you know. We always deliver. We've never missed a distribution. We've had multiple profit sharing quarters, and we're now at stabilization when we merged everything. But yeah, I'm going to have to go after some of the big boys. We're going to have to start raising, you know, $50 million, $100 million tranches to start duplicating and scale across the country. Anywhere our national builders are, we have that opportunity. So to keep it short, and by the way, since I am terrible at showing and sharing my screen, Tom, I'll send you this presentation. Anybody that's on the presentation wants a copy of my pitch deck, then I'm more than happy to have you disperse it to anyone.
Okay, cool.
Nothing's proprietary in there. So for Rockstar Capital Group, real simple. You can go to rockstarcapitalfund.com. If you want to invest with us and cash flow on dirt and do what we do, we pay a 10% annual preferred return. You start earning your quarterly distributions immediately after investing. My fund operation and management fees are total expenses are about 3% or lower for the entire year. It's not coming from the investor. It's coming from the money that we earn when we lend. So it's the borrowers that are paying these fees. And I also share in all profit sharing distributions. So anything excess of the 10% and the 3% for management and operating expenses is split 60-40, 60% to investors. Now, our average lending rate is 25%. So quick math, subtract from 25%, subtract the 10, subtract the 3% total, we're left with about 12%. And that's about 7% to Rockstar investors. We'll probably hit 15% total return to investors this year. I anticipate being closer to that 17 next year. And as we continue to grow that land side even more, it could get better. People have heard me say in the past, I am bound and determined, and I've set another big, hairy, audacious, crazy, unrealistic goal of beating or outperforming Berkshire Hathaway, which means I have to drive this to where we're returning 20% average to our investors. I've only ever failed at one goal before. I don't intend to fail at this one.
So that's rockstarcapitalfund.com. Is that right?
Yes. And let me see if I've got my information here at the end. Oh, there we go. There we go. There's my cell. There's my email. If you do call me, please send a text first. Let me know who you are. I do not answer calls I don't recognize. I've also been told that for some reason, AT&T, people can't leave a message on my phone. So it's probably a good thing. Otherwise, I'd never get any sleep at all. But Brandon at rockstarcapitalfund.com. There's my cell. Text me first. Tell me who you are, that you're on Tom's webinar. And as Tom will tell you, I usually answer every call, email, or text same day. And sometimes it means long hours, but I love what I do. So it's not really work. It's actually a lot of fun.
I have put, I did put those also in the chat there. So if you guys wanted to copy and paste or whatever, Brandon Rooks' cell phone number there in the chat, and then also the website as well, if you guys are interested in that. Again, does anybody have any questions that they want to ask? You guys can put them in the chat, or you guys can open up your mics if you want. I'm going to ask you to probably to unshare or stop sharing there, Brandon. And if anybody has any questions, we'll get to the questions. And if not, hopefully you guys have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah. And God bless you, everybody. So if anybody has any questions, you guys can, like I said, unmute and just ask questions, or you guys can put them in the chat. And then Brandon, can you stop sharing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Stop. Oh, the red button up top.
There you go. Yeah. Awesome. Again, thanks, Brandon, for sharing with us today and investing in our community. I learned something myself, and hopefully you guys learned something as well. And it's kind of interesting because it's almost like you're saying this is the hardest part of the entire thing, because normally the hardest part is what gets paid the most. And this is kind of one of those things that people fear is engineers and attorneys, right? This is basically what you have to work with is engineers and attorneys all day long, to get this stuff happening. So, oh, look, Mike's attorney, he popped his face in there. And did you have a question, Mike? Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask?
Yep,
No, just here to listen.
Alan have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alan.
Back in the 60s and early 70s, we were one of the biggest builders for the subsidized 235 mortgages. A lot of people don't even know about them, where they would set you up for a 30-year FHA loan, and then the government would subsidize part of your premiums, part of your payment. And it was, we built several hundred homes a year in Tampa Bay area. And then up through 86, we were a big developer. But is there any talk about reviving the 235 subsidized housing? Because it was done to invigorate the building business, and it did cause a lot of new development in other than the high cost areas. But have you heard anything about it?
I haven't heard anything in my circles of what we deal in, but kind of keep in mind that
Look it
all
up. Look it up and talk to some of the other big builders, because it was a good way to do it on less expensive homes.
yeah, well, you know, the big builders have their model and what they do. We're simply a provider of dirt to them, but it's something that I'll bring up with Lindsay and the BRD Land and Investment team. They may have heard about it, but yeah, I appreciate that. I jotted down some notes on it.
It could be an opportunity to
Could
find
be,
land
you know,
that you
keep in
wouldn't have
mind
found.
that-
Yeah.
Yeah, and just keep in mind that again, the end product that's being built on almost all the ground that we go after is going to fall in workforce housing. So it's going to be single family attached and detached, and these days, in that 250 to 350K price point on average. Some will be up there in the 450, just depends on the market. That's actually considered, you know, workforce housing or affordable homes. Granted, it's not, you know, it's not catering to the people that don't make that much, but the good thing is it can be sold off as investment rental properties or owner occupied, which by the way, I think 60% of our sales in Southwest Florida of our homes are investor and 40% are owner occupied. And always have a double exit strategy if you're doing anything in new construction or build. So make sure you can sell to multiple people.
That's good. All right. Well, thanks again, Brandon.
Yep.
If anybody has any more questions, speak up now or put it in the chat. And I just want to remind everybody about next month's call, January 9th. I know the holidays will kind of come up and bite us and we'll forget about this, but I want to remind you guys, put this on your calendars. If you guys have already signed up for our monthly calls, if you've gone onto the website to actually sign up for them, you should be getting automatic calendar invites. And if you're not, please let us know, or maybe we have the wrong email for you. We can make sure that we get those calendar invites for you guys each month. But that's going to do it for today. Remember, everybody, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, and work to be a conduit, not a bucket. Appreciate everybody for being on today. Have a good day.